So, it's been about 9 years since I've left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church. I just want to take some time to reflect on some of the things that I've experienced since then. I feel like I have a 2020 vision on how things went, and one of the things that really bothered me was something that my brother-in-law said. So we would have these family dinners, and I remember one time going over to his house for Thanksgiving, and for whatever reason, we were talking about the internet. And this was after I had come out that I don't believe in the church anymore. So, one of the things that he said, which was an obvious reference to me, but he didn't say it directly to my face, was that people just believe whatever the internet says and they just accept it, in reference to anti-Mormon websites or whatever. They have no ability to think critically and they just accept it without any kind of pushback, which is so bizarre because we know that people get very defensive whenever their beliefs are attacked. Nearly everybody does this, and it's just human nature. And it's really rare to be able to say something critical and have the other person actually listen to the things you're saying. So whenever somebody says, "Oh, all ex-Mormons just believe whatever they read online," they read these anti-websites, these anti-Mormon sites, and they're deceived. The truth of the matter is, I was exposed to these so-called anti-Mormon websites before I left for my mission. I was 19 years old and I was going to the Seattle, Washington mission. And I had got wind of the fact that there was some strong anti-Mormons up there. The guy who made this movie called The God Makers, Ed Decker, lived in my mission. And so I was kind of afraid. I was nervous, that I would come across these Christians going door to door and I wouldn't be able to defend myself or defend my faith. So at the time, I found some informative websites. I went online. I found fairlds.org. Now I think it's called Fair Mormon. And I found a couple other message boards like Zion's Lighthouse message board, where basically, a lot of these apologists got together and they would discuss issues. And so I came across these issues from very, pretty pro-Mormon websites. And so when I read about these issues, they were kind of disturbing, obviously, but, I didn't believe what the, anti-Mormons were saying. I immediately read the response to those accusations, and without question, without any kind of objective thinking, I accepted the apologist explanation. So I guess it is, kind of true what my brother-in-law said. It was true that, anything that confirmed my belief as a Mormon, anything that defended it, I would believe that wholeheartedly without question. And so, anyway, I heard about these, anachronisms in the Book of Mormon, accusations about Joseph Smith, and just all the issues. And I didn't accept them. I rejected them outright. All of them. I totally rejected them. And I accept the apologist's argument, and I accepted the explanations so much that I would get online and I would debate other Christians and defend the church. Anyway, so the way that I would respond to whenever, a Mormon would say that, "Oh, you just believe these anti-Mormon lies, and you just accept it," I would say, well, that's not how it was for me. I was exposed to it, and I didn't believe it at first, and it took 7 years until after I was initially exposed to finally admit that I was wrong. It was very difficult to admit that I was wrong, and to admit that I could be, just as happy outside the church. and that the church's teachings are not based in reality, that they make errors just like every other man-made organization. Some members, I don't know if you heard this, some members will say, oh, I know all this stuff. I know everything you said, and I'm still a believer. Um, and they say this thinking that that's a good defense, like, oh, I've heard everything I choose to believe. But that's exactly how cult psychology works. They say they read all these anti-arguments online, but then they dismiss them outright and completely put up, all these barriers so that they're not affected by it. And so they maintain belief at no matter the cost. It doesn't matter what anti or ex-Mormons will say. A true believing Mormon will not reason objectively. This is what Mormons do. This is what fundamentalist Christians do. You can't really persuade them of anything, and it's very difficult to get them to think introspectively, to really evaluate the evidence. But to a certain extent, it's understandable. There's a certain, human nature where, we have a set of beliefs and we have a tendency to defend those beliefs. But to a certain point, it gets so extreme where, no matter what kind of evidence, it doesn't matter, you just won't be able to convince them. And they kind of wear that as a badge of honor where they're like, oh, yeah, I know everything. I know that Joseph Smith married, a girl just shy of 15 years. And I have no problem with that. I know that, there's anachronisms in the Book of Mormon. And, I know they can list off all these things that says more about the person's critical thinking skills than it does about the actual issues, right? They think that minimizes the issues, but it doesn't minimize issues. They're basically admitting that they can't be objective, that they can't evaluate the evidence in a rational manner. I mean, imagine, a fundamentalist Christian saying that, right? Imagine a fundamentalist Muslim saying that. Imagine a fundamentalist anything, anybody who has kind of cultish, beliefs or identity. When they see a person of another faith, you know, use those defenses, they would think, oh, that's ridiculous, Why can't you think more objectively? And so it's a big double standard that, you know, Mormons, how can they proselytize and at the same time expect people to change their minds, right? When they absolutely will not, right? It's a complete double standard. But anyway, so just a couple of thoughts for now. This is my first video. So I thought I'd put my story out there now that I've had, about 9 years. My 10-year anniversary is coming up next year. And so I kind of feel like I had some thoughts and I just want to share. So I don't really have a sign off, so I think that's about it.